Well, hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the Gentlemanly Podcast with me, Troy Francis, author of 11 books about dating, self-development, and generally helping you to have a better overall life experience. And today I wanted to talk about, the importance of tailoring, really, or the importance of dressing well. And the reason, this is always a topic that's interested me since I was very young, actually. But I recently went to a tailor's. It was yesterday, actually, to get a pair of trousers repaired. So I had a pair of trousers which were made for me by another tailor, and they they ripped. And they ripped in a very sensitive area, the crotch area. Not what you think. Not what you think. It was completely accidental. The material was quite thin, and I don't know, maybe I was eating too many burritos when I was over there, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, there was basically this huge rip, which happened, funnily enough, it was on the Rio boot camp with James Tusk, and I was at a very sort of prestigious party event at the Copacabana Palace, actually, of all places, when the rip occurred. And fortunately, because I was wearing like a white suit, there's a suit jacket with it as well, and fortunately the jacket covered I think for the most part the jacket covered the rip, and the rip was sort of underneath in the crotch area, if that makes sense. So I don't think it was visible, so I kind of got away with it. But anyway, I was gonna get it repaired in Colombia, because and we'll talk a little bit about, as we go forward, like about tailoring and about different places you can go to. But I mean, basically, if you go abroad, if you go somewhere like Thailand, or if you go to, a Latin American country or something like that, obviously it's going to be cheaper to get this stuff done than if you go in central London, which is where I am now. So I was going to get it done in Colombia, didn't get time, so I bring it back to London, and then I find this new tailor's, who I've taken something else to be repaired to as well, and I took the trousers into him, and I said, look, there's this massive rip, but it's basically whatever you can do, and because the area where the rip is sort of somewhat concealed, I was sort of. And also the rip was quite sort of, how can I put it? I mean, you can get a rip on a seam, or you can get a rip that's just a tear, and this is more like a tear. And so I just sort of said to him, listen, do what you can, and he said to me, I think I'm going to do this, we're going to take some extra material here, we're going to do this and this. It seemed a bit complicated, and I said, look, just do what you can. I said, look, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just patch it up and that'll be fine. And he turned to me and he said, no. He said, no, it does have to be perfect. And that immediately sold me on his services. I thought, well, what a fantastic response. And secondly, it leads me into this, talking about this subject about tailoring and about clothing in general. Now, what you wear in the end is up to you. Okay, I guess I have a certain aesthetic which I've developed over the years, and it's partly also, it relates to my age as well, because I am a man of a certain age, half 100 years old, and it makes sense to kind of reflect that, I think, in what you wear. You don't want to be dressing like a teenager the whole time. I mean, we were watching a TV program recently, myself and my girlfriend, and one of the guys, I said he looks like somebody who'd been in a 90s boy band. It was all sort of hair brushed forward and wearing like a Run DMC t-shirt and hoodies and stuff like that. And I've actually got a couple of hoodies, but I mean, I don't mind a bit of athleisure on my days off. But in general, I want to project a certain look, particularly if I'm going out, particularly if I'm going to nice places, particularly if I'm living in a lifestyle which I believe to be aspirational, right? Which is what we want to encourage you to do here at Gentlemanly. So tailoring for me is important, and I think you can't really go wrong with the basics, which are obviously shirts, jackets, trousers. If you want, you can wear a full suit, You don't have to. I mean, if you look at what I'm wearing today, we've got some chinos, and then we've got a jacket and a shirt. The shirt was made for me. The jacket was bought from. This is actually from Reese, actually, which is quite a nice sort of let's say mid-range kind of high end sort of high street brand, if you like, in the UK. High street makes it sound cheap. It's a decent brand in the UK, but it's not like super designer. And I got the chinos elsewhere, and I've got some kind of slip-on sort of loafers, if you like, as well. And a pocket handkerchief. The pocket handkerchief was also made for me. This is part of some material that was used to make another shirt for me. So what I tend to do is get a combination of things. Some stuff I get made. Over the past few years, we've been working with a tailor based here in London, and he has made quite a number of things for me, some of which I wear in the videos, including the white trousers I was talking about, and he made 2 suit jackets for that. There's a double-breasted one, there's a single-breasted one. He's made a blue suit for me, he's made a black suit for me, he's made some various trousers for me, waistcoats, like shirts, whole bunch of stuff that I've actually got made. And I think there's huge value in that, right? I think getting stuff, because whenever I talk about fashion, I mean, obviously you're going to have your own taste as far as colour is concerned and as far as style and things like this. But I mean, I think the most important thing really for me is fit. Now, this flies slightly in the face of what's happening at the moment out there, which is there is a trend towards how can I put it, more baggy clothing, like less super fitted than it was before. I personally buck that trend. It's not something I mean, if it becomes all pervasive, then maybe. And I have started to wear shirts. I'm thinking of one in particular I was wearing in Brazil that are slightly less fitted than before, so I'm kind of slightly getting on board. But I think in general, you want to have a sleek sort of silhouette, if that makes sense. And I think being fitted is very much part of that. But watch this space, because we'll see how the trends go. As I say, I mean, if you look in shops at the moment and you look online, and in women's clothing this is happening. A lot of women are wearing quite baggy stuff, particularly during the daytime. And I'm seeing in some stores, quite baggy suits made for men. It's not really my bag. I don't think I'll really be embracing it, but let's see where we get to. But the point is, anyway, you can't really go wrong with this kind of look. If you go to any international city pretty much in the world, there are going to be guys who are wearing this kind of thing. You might loosely describe it as an old money look, and humorously on Instagram, I've seen people posting, if you get your old money clothes in Zara, then that's not old money, that's no money, which is quite funny. But look, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Zara is also, I would say, a good store for basics. I think it depends what you're buying. I mean, personally, I think things like, I mean, this, as I say, is this was from a store. I get quite a bit of stuff vintage as well, or second hand, and then I get it tailored. Okay, so there's 2 levels of things you can do. You can go to a tailor from scratch, either in the UK, or some people go to Thailand, or somebody's found somewhere in Colombia that's really good. Wherever you want to go, and you get them to measure you, and then you go through materials with them, and you say, right, I want a blue suit. Okay, so he'll show you all the different kinds of blue material that he's got. Then he might show you different linings that he's got and different buttons, and then you've got to decide, okay, so do I want double-breasted? Do I want single-breasted? Do I want 2 buttons? Do I want 3 buttons? Do I want 1 button? Do I want, say, if there's a buttonhole, do I want different coloured stitching on the buttonhole, or the buttonhole here on the arm? So there's all these different details, and a made-to-measure tailor or a bespoke tailor. There's a small difference. Made-to-measure is basically what it says on the tin. They'll make it to measure. They'll tend to use machines. Bespoke is a slightly higher grade option where they do everything by hand, but it's basically still made for you. Okay, so you've got that. And if you're interested in that, and particularly if you're in London and you want to contact, I've certainly got someone I've worked with for a long time who's very, very good, who's got a very high-end client base, let's just say. So I can certainly put you in touch with him, and hopefully get you a little bit of a discount, or put in a good word for you anyway. The other option you've got is to buy things either on the high street, or I say high street, I mean the high street up to designer, or vintage, second hand, or used, or whatever, pre-loved, or whatever people say these days. And then, depending on how well that fits, you can take that to a tailor and get that redone for you. And I really actually quite like that option, and I really actually quite like going to vintage stores and finding bargains. I've got a Dior jacket which I've worn quite a lot. I mean, I had it in Colombia, I think I had it in Rio, I've worn it in quite a few of the videos. Dior tuxedo jacket, we bought it literally £5 the original jacket cost when I bought it in it was a store in Notting Hill, and then I took it to get remodeled for me, and I took it to somewhere in Savile Row, and it cost me significantly more to get the thing altered than it did for the actual purchase. But overall, it doesn't matter, because it was still a lot less expensive than it would have been to have bought new or off the rack. So that's something else you can do, and I really like doing that. And there's something about going to vintage stores or second-hand stores that I like. I mean, there's a whole range of them. I mean, in London there's loads of them. This sort of how can I put it? Received knowledge is to say, go to an affluent area, and then the stuff that you find in the second-hand stores there is likely to be of better quality, and that's true. But I mean, equally, I also there's a very nondescript little store that's sort of opposite me in my local area, which isn't a particularly posh neighborhood, let's say, and they have some really great stuff. And the good thing about them is everything is very low priced, so you could get like a really top designer jacket for £10. I got a Paul Smith jacket in there for £10. If I'd have gone to Notting Hill or not Mayfair, but Kensington or somewhere like that, they probably would have charged a lot more, £35, £40 or something for that jacket. So you could just look around. But the thing is to find things that, and then obviously look for something that is in your size or approximately your size. Try it on. And then what I always look at is things like the sleeves, so how baggy are the sleeves, and also the shoulders, very, very important as well. And of course, around the waist as well, the how tight it is around the waist. You don't want it to be too tight. You want it to be able to do on the button, or the button, or probably the top button at least. But you want to have that nice sort of pinched in sort of look at the size of the jacket. And then there's different things to look at when you're considering trousers and so on and so forth. But I really quite like, as a sort of a second option, rather than getting everything pre-made for you bespoke, it's quite a nice option to just buy something. And as I say, this secondhand is interesting because there's kind of randomness to it. You get things that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise have got, and that's quite cool. And then going and getting it, first you want to get it dry cleaned as well, so that it's you've removed any of the residue of the previous owners, and then you get it sort of redone for you. Go to a tailor and say, listen, I think maybe the shoulders are a bit big, I think maybe the arms are a little bit big. See what they say, get their input, get them to alter it for you. And then there's something really nice about that, because it feels like it's been done for you. So even though it wasn't originally made for you, it's been remodeled for you, and there's something really, really cool about that. There was a coach many years ago, a guy called Christian McQueen, and he used to absolutely advocate this strategy to his students, and it was like, you want to, I've always to this point I've always sort of, held back a little bit from recommending that everybody dresses in suit jackets and has pocket squares and things, because I think that style is very individual, and I think different things suit different people, and it depends where you are in the world, and and if you live in a very hot climate, it's difficult to be wearing this kind of stuff all the time anyway. But as I get older, and particularly getting into this gentlemanly brand, really I would start to advocate it more, because I think it's essentially, like I say, I think it's something that anybody can pull off, and I think every guy looks good in. Okay, but Christian McQueen used to recommend exactly this strategy, which was to if money is an issue for you, or if budget's an issue for you, you don't have to go to Dior, you don't have to go to Gucci and buy a suit, or wherever else. You can just Tom Ford, get something secondhand and get it tailored, okay, or go to the high street and get something and get that tailored, okay, because the important thing is it's not so much the cost. I mean, if you buy a suit for $3,000 but it fits badly, you're going to look crap. If you buy a suit for $100 and it fits perfectly, you're going to look good, okay? So it's not so much about cost, but it is about fit. And then beyond that, it's also about fabric as well, which is why either going to a tailor is good, or buying designer items is good if you have that budget. Can be good. I mean, obviously you've got to check what you're actually getting for your money, but still. Or buying vintage things is good, where you can get higher quality at a lower price. But I would absolutely recommend the use of tailors. And as I say, there's sort of two separate things, really. I mean, some people can do both. I'm using different people. So I'm using one person who creates things from scratch for me. And he's got all of my measurements, and he does a very good job. And so we've worked together for quite a long time. And then I was using somebody else, and now I've recently found a new person, more for the repairs side of things. And I think if I was going to say I bought a jacket and the arms were slightly too long, I would probably take it to this second guy rather than the first guy, because I'm using him more as an alterations guy rather than as a producing it from scratch guy, if that makes sense. So, and then as for other stuff, I've also had shorts made, because I quite like detail. Detail, I think, is the other important thing. Like a pocket square, something like that. Little details make things stand out, right? So I have had some various pairs of shorts made, and what I've quite liked about that is having the ties on the side. You rather than having a belt, you tighten the shorts by pulling in the sort of ties at the side, which is really cool, and it looks cool. And I've also had my initials put onto them as well. So again, it looks really cool. So I would recommend that, but you don't have to do that. And then other things like t-shirts, underwear. I mean, shirts I quite like to get made as well, because I think fit is quite important. But for t-shirts, I wouldn't bother. So for t-shirts, I would just recommend something like Zara Slim Fit, absolutely fine, no problem at all. Maybe Massimo Dutti, something like that. The important thing is fit, okay? But I wouldn't go as far as getting t-shirts tailored personally, or at least I'm not at that stage yet. I don't think that's necessary, but I do think for more complex garments like suits and also like winter coats, it is worth doing if you've got the money, or at least getting stuff and then getting it altered so that it sort of looks like it's been made for you, even if it hasn't. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Hope you found that useful. If you want any advice on this stuff, just drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, or you can always just hit me up on my socials, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.